Well, hello everyone and happy Wednesday. It's digital host A.J. Wuest welcoming you back to Wednesday's version of Before the Four. I missed you all yesterday, did not get the chance to do a Before the Four yesterday, but we are back and we are strong today. Wherever you're watching Before the Four today, whether it's on Facebook, YouTube, or the 48 Now live stream, as always, thank you so much for watching and spending just a little bit of your Wednesday afternoon here. First, we're starting things off with some breaking news out of Fayetteville, Tennessee, where minutes ago we learned that a Tony man has been arrested and charged with 4 counts of statutory rape by an authority figure. Now, 55-year-old Chris Edward Cagle was arrested today on those charges and taken to the Lincoln County Jail. He has since bonded out, posting a $40,000 bail. Cagle is scheduled to appear in the General Sessions Court for arraignment on May 12th. Now, this investigation was conducted following the report of a Fayetteville High School employee engaging in inappropriate relationships with students. Now, this is all the information we have on this situation at this time, but stay tuned for our evening newscast for more. But now the weather we're seeing here in the Tennessee Valley, some high winds still remain here in parts of North Alabama after a stormy night last night. First, let's turn over to 48 First Alert Chief Meteorologist Brad Travis for a look at what to expect for the rest of the day.
As we have gone through this day, it has just gotten worse, hasn't it? Not as windy as yesterday, but it's a cold wind. We've had a few spotty showers out there and some heavy drizzle, and it's made things damp. Temperatures now in the low 40s will continue to drop all the way down close to freezing tonight. I don't anticipate any issues on area roadways. We might even see a few snow flurries out there in the northeast corner of the state. Look at Decatur. The wind's still shaking the camera around here right around 3:30 in the afternoon here on this Wednesday. Halfway through the work week, we are looking at 40s out there, and this is the way March usually goes. We've got a big warm-up coming up next week. But tomorrow, we're going to see temperatures starting off around 34. That's where we'll be around 4 a.m. But tonight, you're going to need a jacket, maybe even a winter coat out there, as Chelsea Aaron was mentioning today during the newscast at noon. Here's 6 o'clock this evening, looking at a few clouds continuing. That westerly wind at 16 and the snow flurries mainly up the Cumberland Plateau up there in Middle Tennessee. But around here, the clouds continue to linger early tomorrow morning. They'll be on the way out as we get into the afternoon. There's a look at 12 o'clock tomorrow, struggling well below normal in the mid to upper 40s. We may top out in the low 50s tomorrow if we're lucky. 66 Friday's looking really good. And then a few showers around Saturday, but overall Saturday is looking drier than it did earlier in the week.
Well, thank you, Brad. And staying in weather, have you ever wondered what's the day in the life of utility workers in the event of severe weather? Well, yesterday, 48's Nick Ballinger was determined to figure that out. He followed a lineman at Joe Wheeler EMC after a fallen tree took down several power lines in the area. Take a look.
When storms are in the forecast, local utility crews know it's going to be a long night.
We prepare to be out all night if we have to.
This fallen tree took out 3 power lines and even snapped 2 completely in half, causing power outages for more than 200 customers in Trinity. It's where Joe Wheeler EMC lineman Jeremiah Engel will spend nearly 8 hours during this storm.
Yeah, this is going to be a rough one. It's going to take us a little while, take a lot of guys, a lot of effort. But yeah, I mean, unfortunately, storms and stuff like this, we do see it very often.
Before linemen like Engel can fix the outage, calls for every outage are taken here at the command center.
Just one call so far.
On a night like this, you know the storm's coming. We've been hearing about it for a couple of days. You know that we may be here. You know, I made a phone call to my wife earlier and told her, said, you know, I know you're aware, but just I'll be late tonight.
Ken McGee tracks outages, watches radar, and dispatches utility crews.
We miss a lot of dinners, a lot of hours of sleep. I mean, this rain's always, that's not fun to work in. Nobody wants to work in the rain. You're soaking wet. It just messes with everything.
Well, sorry about that, y'all. We had a little chair malfunction. I was going down on the screen, but we are back. But now following up on an apartment shooting here in Huntsville Monday night that left 1 man dead and another in custody. 48's Callie Neese with the latest.
22-year-old Byron Peterson is accused of killing Demetrius Jones here at the Belmont Hills apartments last night. I spent the day knocking on doors, speaking with the victim's family and neighbors, and they say this was a complete shock to them, and they have never seen anything like this happen here. Last night, Huntsville police responded to a shooting here at the Belmont Hills apartments. Once they arrived, they found 53-year-old Demetrius Jones with gunshot wounds. He was later pronounced dead on the scene. Officials say Peterson was the man who shot Jones. Police say both Peterson and Jones both lived in this apartment complex, and they had an ongoing dispute for several months. Investigators say there were handguns found in both Jones and Peterson's apartments, and they were both taken from the scene. I spoke with several neighbors, but none of them wanted to go on camera. One neighbor told me that Jones was well known at the complex, and she never had an issue with him before. And when the police arrived, they blocked off the entrances to the complex and asked her to go back into her apartment. Another witness told me she saw the two arguing last night, moments before shots were fired, but could not tell what they were arguing about. Investigators arrested Byron Alexander Peterson in connection to the shooting death of Jones. Peterson is now facing murder charges and sits in the Madison County Jail without bond. This shooting is still under investigation. Reporting in Huntsville, Cali News 48 News, on your side.
And now moving out to DeKalb County, where the murder trial has begun for Keith Sullivan, a Grove Oak man accused of murdering his neighbor in May of 2023. Opening statements and testimony began yesterday. 48 Savannah Sapp was there, and she takes us through everything that happened.
Liz, the state called multiple witnesses today after they told the jury they would be asking them to find Keith Sullivan guilty of shooting and killing his neighbor, Gregory Bagwell. Today, we heard from a dispatcher and law enforcement about their response to that shooting in May of 2023. A former DeKalb County dispatcher testified about the 911 call made by Keith Sullivan immediately following the shooting. A recording of the call was played in court, and Keith can be heard saying, quote, "Yes, I shot him." Defense attorneys asked the dispatcher if she had received calls about Greg Bagwell prior to the incident, and she replies that she was very familiar with his history. Brian Slayton also took the stand, the first responding officer to the scene that night. Just before the shooting, Slayton said he responded to a previous call of Bagwell destroying his own property. After responding to the home, he says Bagwell had stopped and he calmly went inside, so Slayton left. Just 40 minutes later, Sullivan shot Bagwell from his front porch. Body camera footage showed Sullivan telling Officer Slayton he thought Bagwell was coming for him. And other officers testifying today confirmed that Sullivan did express fear of Bagwell during their response to the shooting. They also confirmed that Bagwell did have a few previous run-ins with law enforcement. Testimony is set to continue tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. In Fort Payne, I'm Savannah Sapp, 48 News, on your side.
And Savannah is back in court today covering the trial. She'll have the latest from today coming up in our evening newscast. But now in Huntsville, where earlier today we learned that a woman suspected of sending contraband into ADOC facilities was arrested last month. Now this after a search warrant was carried out at her home. Now authorities say the search warrant was executed on February 27th at the home of Francis Linares and found a home lab to make synthetic cannabinoids, also known as bath salts. Now according to authorities, the warrant also led to the discovery of 64 grams of marijuana, over 100 grams of THC wax, 54 grams of fentanyl, and over 300 grams of bath salts. Authorities also say they found 2 guns. The 37-year-old Linares was arrested and taken to the Madison County Jail. She's been charged with trafficking and manufacturing in the first degree. Now, this investigation remains ongoing and further charges are expected. But now in a bit of state news, Senator Tommy Tuberville today announced he is considering a run for governor. The senator told reporters this morning that he will consider running in the 2026 election. Tuberville says he hasn't made any decisions yet, but he has spoken to donors and family about a possible run, adding that he is praying over the decision. Meantime, the senator says he's enjoying working closely within the Trump administration. But now, staying in a bit of state news, a 10-year-old is being hailed a hero after saving his sister from a burning home in Odenville, Alabama over the weekend. Lisa Crane reports.
This was the Smith family home for 25 years, but they say in mere minutes, early Saturday morning, they lost it all. There were 11 relatives staying here that night, including 4 children.
It was really hot, and then as soon as we woke up, like 10 seconds later, it got really black in there.
Now, 2 of the relatives inside were in wheelchairs, but with fire blocking their ramped exit, they had to bring them down these stairs. It was chaotic and very difficult, so they didn't realize at first that 8-year-old Mia was still inside.
I didn't hear Zane wake me up, so I was asleep. Then I woke up, and then I was just in the hallway because I didn't know which door to go out. And then I was just in the hallway crying because I didn't know what to do. Then Zane came back and got me.
Before anyone could stop him, 10-year-old Zane ran back into the burning home to look for his sister.
I was screaming to her to come get my hand, and then she came, and then we went outside.
Weren't you scared? Tell me why you weren't scared.
Because I wasn't thinking, I was just thinking about saving my sister.
He's just all around good kid. I mean, super kid.
Does it surprise you that he would do something like this? No.
No, he is just, he loves his siblings.
He makes sure that they're cared for and played with and kissed on and loved.
The home and just about everything inside is gone, along with 3 dogs. But they're thankful their entire family, from the oldest to the youngest, is safe.
Now I feel like me and her got way more closer to each other. I'm really proud of myself for helping her.
A hero for sure. Awesome story there. And now, coming up after the break, we'll talk about a Decatur man being in attendance at last night's congressional joint session. This after getting invited by the president himself. The latest on the stock market and how it's being impacted by tariffs on 3 of our nation's top trading partners. And it's a name you might have not heard in a while, Casey Anthony. What is she up to today? Find out coming up after the break. Oh, well, hello and welcome back to Before the Four. Last night, a Decatur man was in attendance after being invited to President Trump's address to Congress in last night's joint session. Jeff Denard and his wife were both in Washington, D.C. last night. And yesterday, 48's Faith Delp spoke with several of his co-workers who say he was incredibly grateful for the opportunity. Denard works full-time at Nucor Steel in Decatur. He's also a volunteer firefighter and is the acting director for a nonprofit ministry that serves foster families called the Circle Ranch. His co-workers also said the president's secretary called him and invited him to the White House. Let's roll the video.
Today is a proud American steelworker, fantastic person from Decatur, Alabama. Jeff Denard has been working at the same steel plant for 27 years in a job that has allowed him to serve as the captain of his local volunteer fire department, raise 7 children with his beautiful wife, Nicole, and over the years provide a loving home for more than 40 foster children. So great, Jeff.
Pretty cool stuff right there. But now in national news, yesterday the 25% tariffs on Canadian and Mexican imports went into effect, as well as an additional 10% on Chinese goods. Now, in what some fear could escalate into a full-blown trading war, Wall Street not reacting well, with stocks still tumbling over the last 2 days. NBC senior business correspondent Christine Romans has a closer look.
From a tailspin on Wall Street to nervous consumers on Main Street.
Are eggs going to double, or is gas going to go through the roof?
Concern and confusion over the impact of President Trump's trade war against America's three most important trading partners, Mexico, Canada, and China.
Whatever they tariff us, other countries, we will tariff them. That's reciprocal, back and forth.
But just hours after they took effect, the administration signaling there may be a compromise with Mexico and Canada, but arguing the U.S. allies need to show they're fighting illegal immigration and the drug trade.
So he's really looking carefully at that, trying to figure out, is there a way in there that he can come in the middle? But they've got to do more.
Ahead of any deal, China, Mexico, and Canada vowing to retaliate.
Canadians are reasonable, and we are polite, but we will not back down from a fight.
The Premier of Canada's Ontario province warning that American consumers will suffer and that he may even shut off power in neighboring states where Canada supplies it.
I will use every single tool in our toolkit to fight back.
Some experts predict tariffs could mean higher prices at the pump for millions of Americans in the immediate future.
The next week or so, gas prices will start going up. By mid-March, gas prices in New England could be 20 to 30 cents a gallon higher.
Consumer confidence already showing some signs of a slump, with spending recently falling for the first time in nearly 2 years. Some major retailers say higher prices may be passed on to their customers. Target's CEO warning prices on fruits and vegetables from Mexico could rise in the next few days.
We're going to try to make sure we can do everything we can to protect pricing, but if there's a 25% tariff, those prices will go up.
Good to know. And now, more than a decade after she was acquitted of murdering her 2-year-old daughter in a sensational trial that made national headlines, Casey Anthony is back in the spotlight this morning. Now, joining social media for the very first time, NBC's Liz Kreutz is here with that story.
More than 16 years after she was accused of murdering her own daughter.
This is my first of probably many recordings.
Casey Anthony is reintroducing herself to the public on TikTok.
I am a legal advocate.
Without providing much detail, the now 38-year-old says she wants to use her platform to help others in a legal capacity.
I feel that it's necessary, if I'm going to continue to operate appropriately as a legal advocate, that I start to advocate for myself and also advocate for my daughter.
Casey also directing followers to new posts on the publishing platform Substack.
As a proponent for the LGBTQ community, for our legal community, women's rights, I feel that it's important that I use this platform that was thrust upon me and now look at as a blessing as opposed to the curse that it has been since 2008.
The TikTok video quickly racking up millions of views, as well as drawing criticism across social media.
Casey Anthony is on TikTok giving legal advice. Are you out of your minds?
In 2008, Anthony was charged with first-degree murder in the death of her 2-year-old daughter, Kaylee. Years later, in 2011, she was acquitted by a jury for the murder in one of the most-watched criminal trials in history. More than a decade since that not guilty verdict, the case continues to captivate the nation.
But I'm still defending the fact that I didn't hurt her.
Casey breaking her silence in a recent docuseries on Peacock, which is owned by NBC News parent company NBC Universal, accusing her own father, George Anthony, of killing Kaylee to cover up alleged sexual abuse.
Well, I was doing what I was told by my father.
George Anthony has never been charged with a crime and has vehemently denied his daughter's accusations. Now, after years of scrutiny in the public eye, Casey Anthony says she wants to use her spotlight to advocate for others.
My goal is to continue to help give a voice to people.
And now on today's good side, a graduating senior in Baton Rouge gets to ride out of high school with a special surprise. For the past 4 years, Kentrell Taylor has used his bike everywhere: school, basketball, practice, and work. But as Georgia Peck reports, that recently all changed.
This rack right here is my favorite spot.
Kentrell Taylor is very familiar with this rack. He's tied his bike to it every day for the past 4 years, riding it to school, work, and basketball practice.
I have to do what I gotta do. Outside of this, I have work, and I have so much other stuff that I have to do, and I got no time really. And when I have no time, I can't make the bus. So the only way I can really get here is with that bike.
He spent all that time doing what he loves most.
Helping people is one thing that I love to do in the future.
Outside of all his other obligations, he's a volunteer tutor and represents the school on various panels with BRPD. All of this, coupled with his determination to do it all on his bike, is something that caught Dr. Kilrain Popleon's attention.
When we seen what was going on, we knew right then and there that we had to step in.
Stepping in was this piece of paper right here, the ticket to Taylor's next chapter.
I remember talking to his mom. His mom was so excited and so proud of him as a student. And I said, "Mom, you're going to be really excited after this game." And she said, "I hope so. I don't know what's coming."
Taylor got a big surprise in the form of an upgrade from 2 wheels to 4.
I was shocked, happy. Everybody in my family was screaming like, "What?" And it was just like, it was great. The feeling is like a feeling that I feel like I'll never get back. It's one feeling that I think nobody will ever feel.
We stepped in and we made calls with a long-lasting friend, long-lasting former parent of the school who owns a towing company, and they were able to donate and bless him with a car and pay for the tax, title, and license.
It's a blessing and a new way on the road to his future.
I want to say thank you to everybody. I want to say thank you to God for giving me this opportunity, which is very impactful to me. And I'm gonna make sure, that this won't go unnoticed.
And now let's head into the stories you're just not going to want to miss coming up in our evening newscasts. A Lawrence County man who's been behind bars for 8 years on trial for capital murder. 48's Aria Pons will have more on that. Following up on an Athens man charged with sexual abuse, his bond now set at $1 million. 48's Noah Cowell will be speaking with neighbors of the suspect. And this one is for you, for all the kiddos who are watching at home right now. Do you have what it takes to be a Rocket City trash panda? Well, you can become one for a day. Those details coming up right up in our evening newscast. And these are just a few of the stories you're just not going to want to miss coming up. And we haven't had it in a little while. The first one of the week. It is, of course, time for Facebook fun. Our 48 Facebook question of the day. What is the most overhyped fast food? And, you know, this was a tough one for me. Just because, I think I like every fast food restaurant there is. I think I ultimately decided on Crystal or White Castle. Just not a fan. I'm just not a fan of those. I don't know if they're overhyped because I don't hear a lot of people talking about them, but I'm just not a fan of those 2 restaurants. But let's see what you all had to say. Michelle said Buc-ee's. Michelle, no. Everything I have tried food-wise is mediocre. I am going to have to agree to disagree with you there, Michelle. I love Buc-ee's. I do understand where you're coming from, though. You go to the one in Athens on I-65, and that thing is packed to the brim almost all the time. I can definitely understand where you're coming from. Hard to find parking, and it is a massive building, so it's like, how is it hard to find parking and hard to move in there, but it's just super good in my opinion, but I definitely understand where you're coming from, Michelle. Thank you for commenting. D. West said Chick-fil-A. Okay, a fair point there. Jen Tittle said McDonald's. Well, I kind of like McDonald's. I'm going to have to agree to disagree with you there, Jen. Jennifer said Whataburger. Oh, man, I love Whataburger. And then, let's see. I don't see how people like Chipotle, Wingstop, and Panda Express. I've tried them, and hearing people say it's good, and it was disgusting. Fair enough. Well, thank you all for commenting on today's 48 Facebook question of the day. It always makes my day to see what you all have to say. Now, that's all the time I have in today's Before the Four, but thank you all for sticking around and spending a bit of your Wednesday afternoon here. Hope you all enjoy tonight's evening newscast, and of course, thank you so much for watching. You all have a great night.